And okay, let's get started, Amir.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm Amir. Some of you might have um, known me through the comments that I have left for your assignments and stuff. Um, so far, the course has been a pure joy for me. It's really interesting, the topics that come up and the way you guys respond to it. So I'm really enjoying it. Um, I am gonna introduce myself a little bit, and then I am gonna just jump in um, the lecture or talk, and then I'll occasionally open it up for if you have questions or comments or whatever. Uh, so I am Amir. I'm a violinist. I am about to start my third year of the D.M.A program in the music department at UCSD. And D.M.A is basically like equivalent of Ph.D for performers. And I also compose, and I also do some research. And that happens to be the topic of what I want to share with you today, actually. My main body of research and concerns uh, of that area and topic and subject. And yeah, so before I start, first of all, let me start this slideshow. Is my screen visible? Okay, perfect. Um, so first of all, I'm terrible at making slides. So the slides you're seeing are going to be extremely basic, and there's basically only three of them. But I've tried to put as much as I can in it and try to organize in a way that it's comprehensive. So what I'm going to talk about is the topic I chose it is the dynamics of cultural phenomena in capitalist society. And that is, as I said, my main body of research. And it has particular aspects to it, and they're all kind of hidden in this title. So I would like to just open it from the title onwards. So, first of all, mm, let's keep in mind what I'm going to talk about is a dynamic process, and it's eventually going to be related to music. And we're going to go through examples and all that stuff. And I would love for you all to, contribute and engage. Uh, but this process is basically a cultural phenomena, this becomings and all that stuff. And the cultural phenomena is basically what emerges out of a cultural setting, right? Like particular societies have particular like material and like whatever form of living, and cultural phenomena is what basically emerges out of that. And the society that I'm particular interested in is the capitalist society, which the greatest example of that is where we're living right now, United States, in particular, California. Um, so I just wanted to give you an intro. And I am aware that uh, this is going to be a little bit too maybe rigid and too theoretical and somehow more towards like the academic like kind of like discourse and all that stuff, but I am doing my best. I will do my best to kind of like decode these and explain the reality of it in our actual lives. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, this is the my maximum art of making a slide, a diagram. So this is the dynamic sphere that I was talking about, right? As you see, I chose a circle because circle is something that is moving, basically is a shape that is becoming and kind of embodies some sort of endless like processes in itself.
Sorry,
So,
Amir. I think your slides doesn't move.
oh, okay.
Is that only for me? I think it's for everyone.
Oh,
It's
sorry.
locked.
Oh no. Let's see. Um, now?
Okay, okay, yes, yes, we can see it now. Okay,
Okay.
great.
Thanks for mentioning that. Um, yeah, so here's the circle. here's the processes and becomings that I want to talk about and kind of like unpack. There are terms in it, good mouthful, like commodification, reification, cultural production, aesthetic, and affects. These are all like, if I was not familiar with any of these terms, I would immediately just leave, pretty go get a snack. But I encourage you to wait because I'm gonna bring the reality of it kind of to the theoretical realm. Um, so the beginning point for me of the circle, um, is the commodification, just for the sake of clarifying the concepts that I'm describing, right? Because it's a circle, no beginning, no end. But basically, for me right now, the beginning of this process that I want to talk about, which is the cultural phenomena and the way they're formed, and their dynamism, is commodification. So we probably have all heard the term commodification. Commodification is in its most prominent form coming out of like Marxist theory, and his like all discourse about like what capital is as an entity and what it does to like communities and societies, da da da. It's it's pretty complex. It's pretty like monumental book called Capital. But the term commodification kind of emerges mainly out of that. And the the core of the term basically is concerned with the process of exchange, right? Between like all the products, anything. For example, between this like naughty body to like and like I don't know, like a Zoom recorder, the exchange and the values, and all those values basically will be quantified in a capitalist form, right? Which is the context of our whole conversation right now or talk. So, what is referred to as a commodity is basically some sort of product that gets exchanged, and there is a particular quantified value to that exchange, right? So, that is what he calls commodity, and that's kind of where I start the whole thing. Um, so as I've written there, the quantification of value, or primarily human labor and its products for the purpose of exchangeability, right? And commodification is the process of any sort of production produces uh, becoming basically quantified in terms of being exchangeable and therefore commodified, right? So the circle moves on from there as the beginning point, moves on to the reification. And reification is another extremely mouthful, I am aware, term. I struggled with it for a while, but now it's just like I just see it, the reality of it. So reification is basically the expansion of the process of commodification. And what that embodies is basically the commodification of every aspect of the interactions between um, members of the society. Every aspect, as I said, could be ethical, relationship, even moral relationship, societal, and obviously material. And when we use the term verification, it means that all of those interactions become commodified, which means they become quantified in order to be exchanged in some way or another. And the expansion of that in a particular society or in like an even global scale, which is close to what is happening right now, forms or basically deforms, let's say, the consciousness of the members, each individual member in that society. And they start to think of every sort of interaction as some sort of quantified, exchangeable, phenomenon. So I'm gonna pause it here for a little, like 2 seconds, and see if anybody has any questions. If so far this formation is clear in itself, because this is the foundation of the rest. Um, and I'm happy to answer, talk about it, whatever. No, I can't see the whole like participants, but
Okay. If you have a question, you can simply unmute yourself and talk, or you can type in the chat. or you can raise your hand. I think yes, there is a raise hand function. So for,
Hmm.
yes, I saw a hand up.
Oh yeah, perfect. One
Okay.
hand. Kevia.
Hi. So I was wondering if you can speak a little bit about the cyclical nature of this diagram. It seems like the arrows are kind of pointing in like a dimension that makes me think like, okay, these things feed into each other and kind of is like a feedback loop. Would you be able to talk a little bit about the connection of that?
Hmm. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. That is exactly the process of this becoming, and this becoming has some sort of direction, and exactly that becomes a feedback loop, which means the ending part of our conversation, which is the affects, actually feedbacks into the commodification. In terms of actually clarifying the whole nature of it, I would basically need to go step by step through all the components of the circle so that clarify what these processes are that turn into this feedback loop. Um, but basically, the emergence of the cultural phenomena, any cultural products, let's say, in a capitalist society, kind of flows into the circle and feedbacks into itself. So if you don't mind, I'll just go through it one by one, and then if still not clear, we can open it up again and talk about it. Um, so the reification of the consciousness of each of those individuals is basically the bigger scale of the formation of all sorts of relationships between different sectors of a community and society in a commodified way, right? And then that society uh, comprised of individuals that are reified, in these terms, uh, obviously produce cultures because all societies somehow like produce cultures as an essential sort of like I've been reading your research proposals, and I know a lot of you are concerned with the way that actually those have been evolved. What is the musical cultural like landscape of different societies and how this is emerging and its components and all this stuff. So we are particular talking about the capitalist society here, and through the process of reification of the members of that society, the culture that emerges is the culture that embodies that process of reification, right? And as an example of that could be like the realm of music, the landscapes of music that just emerge, different layers, different stratas in the capitalist society. For example, in San Diego, there's so many different music scenes, right? They're emerging out of this fundamental, right? And uh, if I want to read the what I left here as definition, the modes of production of cultural contents and materials in a reified society are basically called culture production. This is a term that Theodor Adorno, um, a theorist and philosopher and like whatever, basically introduced as like a cultural product of the capitalist societies. The circulation of reproduction of the cultural material based on quantified value and profit by reproduction machine. So here, kind of, I'm trying to connect those like little parts of the circle back so far, which is halfway through. So these cultural productions, these cultural products that emerge out of this particular kind of society, uh, they also have the same attributes, as any other interaction in a reified society, which means that they're quantified in terms of their value, and then their values are also quantified in order to be exchanged. They're being produced in order to be exchanged with something else, and in order for that to happen, they have a particular numeric quantified, meaning basically numeric value, right? So this is kind of the inherent nature of the cultural production. And we move on to the next part, which is extremely interconnected. Obviously, they're all interconnected, but the cultural realm, which comprises the culture production, aesthetics, and the effects through the circle are extremely interconnected. Pretty much, I can't say exactly the same thing, but like different aspects of the same phenomenon. So when we talk about the aesthetics in general, we're talking about how, in a very popular term, or like in a very like it's in its normative presentation, we call aesthetics as something, uh, as basically a quality that something um, represents, that could be beautiful. Like, for example, we say something is aesthetically pleasing or something is aesthetically not pleasing. We're talking about how we perceive things, right? So those perceptions come through forms. And when we talk about cultural, production and cultural phenomena, cultural products have particular forms in the way they are produced. For example, a song you listen on Spotify, the form of that song, not only what you hear, which is also a prominent part of what I'm going to talk about. For example, let's say a Taylor Swift song, right? You listen to a Taylor Swift song on Spotify, the song itself has a form, has a shape, has, for example, it starts quiet, it goes to climax, then ends in a quiet way. The instruments play a particular role in the aesthetics of it. The instruments are probably guitar, like some synth, I don't know, piano, whatever, like drums. Uh, this is the aesthetic form of the presentation of that Taylor Swift song, Or another example could be not in the realm of music particularly, but actually involves music in it, is I don't know if you've seen the ads or like the banners of Anne Fong, who's like an attorney. She's an attorney for like, and she basically like, what is it, like a yeah, specialized in the realm of accidents, car accidents and all that stuff. And her banners are so catchy. They're everywhere. They're in the buses in San Diego. They're like literally everywhere in the city. And uh the banners are like her standing there in makeup, like in a like red kind of sexy, dress. And there's a slogan always, and that slogan is like iconic now in the realm of, in the realm of like social media and the way it circulates. It says something wrong, call Anne Fong, you know, and it's like it's extremely funny, but I never forgot it after the first time I saw it. Those components of it, that like red dress which has some sort of erotic aesthetics to it, the slogan, which is so catchy. The She also has like a phone line, which is like 898, something like that, like pretty straightforward. She's quite an icon in her own round. Not defending her. I'm just saying that this is a perfect example. As a cultural phenomena, as a cultural production, uh, it does its job perfectly. So this is that aesthetic, But then going back to Taylor Swift has its own aesthetics. And there's, for example, something pretty different is like punk music in the realm of, music. Like punk music emerging, like historical content is something is like it's out of, out of the content of this right now to go in. I mean, it will be great, but we don't have time for that. uh the punk music is kind of like reacting to the cultural production aesthetics, right? Cultural productions are things that basically are oriented towards the reproduction machine, They submit to it, they celebrate it, or they utilize it in particular ways, and so on. But like punk music, on the other hand, uh, at least in the way it began, had a negative orientation towards this cultural production, right? It was like, I do not want to, for example, go into the administrative process of renting a venue for my concerts, What am I going to do? I'm going to play concerts in my like backyard. I'm going to play concerts in my like garage, Uh, I don't need like fancy, say fancy like gears. You know, I just make it work with whatever I can. And if it sounds like shitty, that's gonna be part of the music. You know, that's part of it. Shitty is again an aesthetic that is basically defined through the cultural production aesthetics. And it's like if it's not that, then it's shitty. So punk was like, fuck that. I'm gonna do it the way I want to do it. You know. Um, and then the culture of DIY, do it yourself, which is like a punk culture, you know? Um, so these three examples basically, Taylor Swift, somewhere there, and funk on the billboards, and punk music, you know, are different like phenomena, just as an example. And please feel free to add different examples if you feel like fits in any of these or if it doesn't, because that's also something that we're gonna get to. Uh, these are positive and negative orientations that these cultural phenomena have towards the cultural production, right? Cultural production as a concept itself, not as a literal production of a culture, but as a particular kind of cultural phenomena that just is inseparable part of the capitalist society. Okay. So again, another little pause here because it might be I'm trying to make it fully tangible, comprehensible, but it might again be a little bit too theoretical or like I don't know. Is there anything anyone wants to add? Anything? Any questions or comments? Words of hatred and disagreement? No. Okay, we move on. Feel free to put things in the chat. Um, so picking it up from that little comments that I left for the aesthetic parts. Aesthetics are the orientations, as I was talking about, of the like the essence of the cultural phenomena, including the cultural production as that particular um, as that particular concept uh, towards the modes of production. You know, the way the things are produced, the processes of their production of the reproduction machine, which is basically the machine of the production of a reified society. You know, just trying to circling back as part of the answer to the question that was earlier asked. Um, there is this. I'm trying to like give you some sort of like recap, you know, so far, and then move on. So orientation of these different phenomena are still all in the realm of cultural production, right? In parentheses, the example of negative orientation, which was punk music, for example, or you know, some like even heavy metal, I don't know, like you just name it. There are things out there that are trying to like refuse being part of the cycle and try to like, you know, have some sort of like critical point of view, whatever. Um, these are happening in the round, right? Because they need gears still. Even the DIY culture is like you can be DIY to some extent. You cannot go and like dig the earth to bring some rocks out and then extract iron out of it and make like wind it around things and make metal. I mean, you can do it, but it takes probably all your life to do it, and you won't have time to play music in your garage, you know? So at some point, the DIY culture also stops. And when it stops, it's looped back into that realm, the madness of that production, right? Um, and at some point in the history of, for example, I'm still the parentheses, by the way, it's a long one. In the history of the punk, for example, um, it's looping back into that madness became kind of more obvious. And at some point, the DIY culture was mostly like a luxurious, like um attitude, which was luxurious, but not luxurious uh in like a cultural production way in terms of its aesthetics. But those aesthetics became commodified. And this is where I'm trying to, do the loop back, because the individuals who were punks, let's say I'm a punk, I emerge as a punk artist, and I'm like, okay, DIY, DIY. I'm gonna do everything myself. I'm not gonna let, this magnet just draw me and drag me into itself. Refuse. At some point, I give up because it's extremely hard, number one. Every force from outside is trying to drag you in, And on the other hand, you may not even realize that you're actually being looped back, just like, oh, actually, this is steel punk. And that was where the history of punk kind of like, you know, turned back. Um, and punk, in my opinion, mostly now is a culture that is still reified. The punk culture who was against reification became reified itself. Now you have to kind of buy punkiness, Even if you want to be a punk, you have to kind of be a punk that uses all these commodities. uh, and you just look like a punk. The aesthetics are now punk, but those aesthetics are actually pretty expensive to acquire, you know. Uh, and so the punk culture, uh, which emerged in a reified society, in this larger magnet, as a reaction to that reification, in the history and in time, looped back into it because of the reification process, because of the reified consciousness of its consumers and of its producers, right? Um, and became just another reified form, right? But here is where the aesthetics are negative and positive, but still are in this circle, the positive aesthetics are the ones that submit to the magnet. The negative aesthetics are the ones that react to it and try to get rid of it, But they either loop back into it, or even if they get out, they're always in danger of it. So, kind of a little recap. Uh, Moving on to the affects now, which is the last part of the circle. Affects is a very tricky term, and I actually left this term multiple times for in some comments for you all whenever I thought it might be related or like helpful. So the affects, as I have put here, are the substance of cultural phenomena communicated through the vein of aesthetics. So what is transferred through that aesthetic, for example, punk aesthetic, the thing that is transferred as a form of communication, right? Between you listen to punk music, you listen to it for a purpose. You want to receive something, you want to feel something, you want to whatever, whatever purpose you have, you perceive something out of it. Those things are basically affects, and it's presented in material forms, basically, which is like the song you play on Spotify, the way that song is being put on Spotify, the way you have access to it through your phone, headphones. These are all material forms of it, but also the way that song is built, like the Taylor Swift song example, those are the forms of the presentation and the aesthetics of that cultural phenomena. But the thing that is transferred through that communication is affects, right? Uh, and this is the main point of my interest and my research after all this. This is where I raise questions, basically. And the questions are raised based on my understanding of affects as uh, basically affects of a cultural phenomena through this magnet, Uh, I believe that the affects by themselves carry all these materials and all these like contents and all these like orientations, either through their formal and physical shape or through what they offer, like words, like tones, like sounds, whatever, So the affects are the pure presence, basically, of all this cycle. Now, if something has gone through all this cycle in whatever orientation of aesthetics it is, the affects of it are bearing and holding and carrying all those contents of the culture right? And then when they carry it and offer it, for example, in the Anfang batter, uh, they loop back into the commodification because all those aesthetics become affects, and those affects become something that are offered for the purpose of exchange, and profit. So this is where I'm thinking, how could there be alternatives, that could be introduced out of this magnet, something that could get rid of this magnetic draw, and introduce something that does not fall back in the loop, right? So I again give it another pause here before getting to the next part and open it up for questions, comments, because I've been yapping constantly for a long time.
Please raise your hand if you have questions, or you can, if you don't want to talk, you can simply type in the chat and we can also check your question.
Mhm. Well, I guess there are no questions, which is great. Uh, so the next part of this whole presentation talk, whatever you want to name it, is what I think as possible alternatives. Let's see if, so do you guys see the change of the, okay, alternatives there, perfect. So this is a very elaborated slide that I made. It's the question of, okay, after that complicated cycle of all that shit that is like happening and loops back into itself, are there any alternatives really? As a person who's living in this society, is like rooted in particular ways and not in others, in this society and in this community, what are the alternatives that we could produce, we could introduce, basically, that could break free out of the cycle? I wonder if anyone, before I introduce my version of like proposition for that, does anybody have any sort of like recommendations or any thoughts about like what could this alternative be? How could it even look like? You don't need to name a piece or a work or a song or whatever, even though you can. It could be just like it could look like this or it could not look like this, Comments basically. I'm genuinely interested. My God, I think I yapped too much. Everybody's kind of napping.
You
No.
mean alternatives for what? For your model, your previous model, or
Yeah, so I introduced that cycle as something that like all the cultural phenomena coming out of that society kind of loop back into that cycle, whether they want it or not, whether their orientation is positive, whether their orientation is negative, whether they're Anfang, whether they're punk. Um, and I, my question basically is, what sorts of cultural production or what sort of cultural phenomena could we as artists, like me as artists, um, offer that does not loop back into that cycle of value, quantification, profit, commodification, offering a reified culture, and so on. What what could be the alternative? Uh, in any sort of form. Is there anything that could be produced in this society that would not fall back into that realm and could just stand separately? And if that's the case, how would its aesthetics sound like, look like, and what would the affects of it feel like? Um, if not that, then what? Oh, Kevia, yeah.
I'm just thinking from what you were saying, I think it would be very challenging to imagine something because I think there have been attempts to produce something that would not fall into the capitalist cycle, but somehow it always ends up. Like something, for example, is like right now there's a lot of discourse with like fashion and on whether like traditional like indigenous fashion forms should be introduced into the mainstream. Can they be introduced? Can it be produced ethically? Once it kind of hits the runway, like does that ruin the integrity of its indigeneity? Like those are kinds of questions that are coming up. So I think it's very difficult, but just from what you're describing, I think something that I would imagine that does break away from the cycle is something that like refuses, from my perspective, something that refuses to be quantified. It has to be something that cannot kind of meet our understandings, whether it's like monetary or with time or with anything at all. It has to be something that exists purely in qualification, not quantification, and that invites like each of its consumers to interact with it differently. And I think it would have to be something that like really relies on like subjective interpretation and something that like embraces discomfort in the fact that like not every consumer is going to have the same experience of it.
Mhm.
Whereas I think right now there's like a big interest in making things as accessible and widely desired as possible. I think it would have to be something that is comfortable with maybe only appealing to like one listener or viewer or um, artist or something like that.
Yeah, that was a brilliant point. You mentioned so many things. First of all, subjective interpretation is one realm of it, which I mean, it's the matter of discussion, right? If whether a subject something that could purely be a subjective representation or like subjective expression could actually be an alternative or not. On the other hand, you mentioned like the fashion, and those are positive kind of offerings, right? So to me, those are like submissive, basically. Those are kind of like submitting to the magnet. Um, so I'm just clarifying my own stance towards that particular matter. But then the main point that I want to pick up and move on uh, is when you said that it should be something that does not necessarily please everyone and does not satisfy the expectations. And here, another parentheses, so many of you have shown interest as your final proposal to the concept of expectation and the way the expectation is related to the history, memory, and perception and all that, right? So here is some like a little seed that it might be helpful to think of, all this like cycle as part of that, because that's also a historical cycle. Um, Parentheses closed. Uh, the matter of unquantifiable and uncomfortable, therefore, somehow, uh, which goes against the rarefied consciousness of the perceiver, of the audience, of the customer, whatever you want to call it. Um, for me, I found an example, and I do not really know if you guys agree to it or not, but that example to me is this piece. And again, I'm primarily a performer. I play violin, I got into all this research because I was going through moments of crisis, in this industry and in this like kind of like relationships. I was like, I want to quit. I just can't go on like this because it's like you have to sell yourself constantly to be able to climb the ladder, and then after that you die. Goodbye. It's like so stupid. What the fuck? So then I found this piece. I came across this as I was just like digging into so many different pieces. And it's by Kunsu Shim, who is a South Korean composer who is right now in Germany. The piece is called Expanding Space and Limited Time. It's for solo violin. It's a piece that goes between 90 minutes to 2 hours, just for solo violin. It's extremely quiet. It's extremely like sparse. And even in an intimate setting, sometimes it takes people like first 15 minutes, 20 minutes to actually start hearing the first sound of the piece. And then the perception switches from hearing nothing to same level as the performance produces the same level of sound all throughout that time. The the audience or like the person who is hearing it starts hearing sounds louder and more clear, and then it opens up, and through each grains of sounds there's a whole new world, you know. But that long-term process does something to people that is very uncomfortable. You know, I played in a recital in November, and first of all, most people left, obviously, at different times. After 10 minutes, after 15 minutes, after 20, after 30 minutes, after like very few people stayed after the first hour. And some people had to also go pee, you know, which is understandable. And I actually like asked for the people to leave the door open, you know, if they wanted to go back and forth. But the point is that that uncomfort that you mentioned is so inherent to this piece that the example of that or evidence of that is that the first time I performed even half, not the whole thing, but a half of this piece for my partner, they had a panic attack. they they were like, "Oh my God, how am I gonna tolerate this in your recital?" But they came though. They probably had another one or two. But I think we have like 4 or 5 minutes total, right? And are we gonna go until 5, Jingwei, or sorry, until 4 or 3:50?
Yeah, we can go until 55, so we have 10 minutes.
Okay, perfect. So then I can show you a little bit. The sound's not gonna be great because of the microphone of my laptop, and I should have connected my other microphones, but um I'm gonna play little parts of it so that you have an idea. And don't worry, I know you're gonna hate me after this. I know you're never gonna listen to any music of this composer. I know this is gonna be an uncomfortable situation, even if it's gonna be for 5 minutes, right? Uh, but for me, this has the aesthetics and the ethics that can be offered as alternative. So here I am with my violin. Well, do you hear this? Is this audible, the sound of the string?
I don't think it seems not. Yeah,
Okay, let
you share
me
the sound.
actually, yes. Performance audio. Just volume. No. Um,
Did you link
okay.
your violin to some device? I mean, you can just play it if you don't.
I just want to see if the microphone that is already connected can grab this. Is this audible at all?
No, no,
Okay,
no.
perfect. This is gonna be great. Uh, oh, you know what? I can. Okay, let me quickly do this as long as 5 minutes. I apologize, everybody. Not only the piece is going to be unpleasant, but the process of it's. Sorry, everyone. 2 seconds to figure it out. All right. So let's see. Okay, can you tell me if this is any better?
No, we still cannot hear that.
Oh my God. Well, is this a failure in its entirety? I wonder. Well, it's great that I, as a musician, don't know how to do this. It's perfect.
Did you link your violin to some external like device?
Yeah, I tried to connect it with my Zoom recorder, but for some reason I can't find a Zoom recorder on the. Which is weird because it should just be there. Well, this is very bad.
Yeah, is it possible that you just don't use anything, just play the violin? I mean, we can hear your voice, so we can hear the sound. Yeah, that's the
Oh,
only.
yeah, that was my question. Can you hear the sound though of the
No, we
violin?
cannot hear it's the violin, but we can hear your voice. So no, we cannot hear the violin.
Wow, that's very bad. Oh, let me see if I can do. This is my last trick. Let me stop sharing for a sec. Okay. All right. In the meantime, please feel free to, if you want to talk about anything, fill
Yeah,
up
sure.
the spare
Yeah,
time.
yeah, sure. I'm just waiting for Yifan. I think he will join like very soon. So Amir will stop presenting at 4, like and then Yifan, your another TA, will join us and he will present his materials. So today you can just get to know both your TAs and also me. Um well, yeah, maybe you already know I'm a PhD candidate. Actually, now I'm already like almost graduate, so I'm a doctor. Actually, yeah, will be my last teaching, my last employment at UCSD, and after this, I'm going to London to continue my postdoc. I will be a postdoc at Queen Mary University of London to work on things like AI and music also related. I will join their computer science and engineering department with the division of Center for Digital Music. Yeah. So I'm happy like to have all of you this summer for sure, because this will be my last, appointment at UCSD. I've been here for 5 years doing teaching assistant, also teach courses. Yeah, this is my okay.
Okay.
Sorry, I want to check again. And if it fails, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm sorry. Do you hear this? Okay, it's as I said, a very sparse, very quiet piece. So if you hear anything, good for you. um, I'm gonna play little sections. It's like section by section by section. I'm gonna play a few of those just to give you the idea of the aesthetics, and then you can just imagine this going for 2 hours, and then you'll probably just hate it, I guess. I'm not gonna play more because it speaks for itself in its entirety. But I don't know if there were any sounds audible in this at all. Again, it's a very quiet piece. But these are the aesthetics, and if you imagine this and these were among the shortest like sections that I chose. Some of them like go for like 6 minutes, just one sound for 6 minutes, and then another sound for 5 minutes. And these are the aesthetics, and all I wanted to basically say is that I feel like if anyone needs alternatives, they should just find new aesthetics, and this is my finding so far. Sorry again for the sound situation and the waste of time. And yeah, if anybody has questions, nothing. Again, I think we should just wrap it up pretty soon. So yeah, any comments or questions for me? Any?
You guys do. Sorry, I can't.
Oh, thanks. Oh, is there anything going on in the chats? No. Okay, nothing. Sorry, Jim, you wanted to say something?
There is reverberation if I talk.
Sorry, can you say that again?
There is reverberation.
The vibration?
Yeah, maybe you can mute yourself.
Sorry, say that again. There was no.
Hello. Okay. Because sorry. There is reverberation. Like when I talk, there is some like reverb, and I cannot hear myself talking. So yes. Thanks so much, Amir. Thanks so much. It's a great presentation, and I'm glad you shared so much knowledge and thoughts, and also your music with us. And yes, I don't think what you are playing is really like. I think is aesthetic. I don't think, it's just pure noise or something like that. I can feel the musical things. It sounds like granular, synthesized, electronic music. Yeah, like on that side, and yeah. I don't know what else. Like what other people are thinking about the music. But everything is great. And let me see if Yifan joined us. Are you here, Yifan?
Yeah, I just joined the meeting.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's a perfect time. So thanks, Amir. See you in the future, and good luck for your research and everything. And great. Let's give a applause for Amir, everyone.
Thank you all. I hope it doesn't have reverb. Thanks so much. I appreciate you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good day. Okay, great. Hey everyone. So now we have Yifan joining us. Okay, let me make Yifan the co-host so that he can share the screen. So do you want to share screen with us?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Jerry, for having me here. And I'm currently in China, which is super early here, and and I just had the surgery in my mouth, so um, I might talk a little bit quieter, and you would be better if I don't turn on my camera.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
Sure. And let me share my screen. And also thank you all for participating.
Sure. Thanks for everyone joining this course. Awesome. Okay.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
I think yes. All right. Let's get started. So, my name is Yifan Guo, and I'm a composer, improviser, performer, and I'm mainly a composer. And so, besides going into some specific pieces and some works of mine, I'm gonna share you some um, backgrounds of mine. So, yes, earlier mentioned, um, I'm a composer, so I compose instrumental and electronic music. And I was a orchestral conductor, so but I'm no longer doing so since it has different aesthetic from what I'm doing right now. So I decided to not doing that, and I also do both recording and live sound engineer. So recording engineer is kind of work that you set up microphone and you do mixing work for recording section, and live sound engineering is kind of you also set up microphone and do and check out the acoustic sound balance in the theater, in the concert hall, so on and so forth. It's mostly for amplification in live sound engineering. So, so as a composer and creator, so I do music theater, electro-acoustic music, performative installation, computer control acoustic music, and many other intermediate performances. So, but today, I don't think we have enough time to present everything, every pieces of my, but I'm gonna mainly focus on these three aspects of my in my work. So music theater is one of the important part of my composition. So as well as the computer control acoustic music. So as a composer and creator, I was trained in classical music, and later on, I've I studied electronic music, so I've more some knowledge and background in instrumental writing. So I began as instrument composer first, and and gradually turning my head into the electronic work. And so besides going into the music theater or the intermediate side of my, I'm gonna show you maybe one or two compositions of instrumental concert music. So in the picture here, the instrument that this guy is holding and playing is called 葫芦丝. It's a Chinese instrument. It's a Chinese folk instrument, origin in Yunnan, which is the southwest part of China, and so this instrument is quite interesting, and it has 3 pipes, and you don't play 3 pipes at the same time most of the time, but you can do it, of course. And people mainly play the middle pipe, and the other 2 pipes on the side are for some decorations and for some additional tones, and also the air pressure for this instrument is quite sensitive, and if you don't give great amount of air pressure into the instrument, I mean, it kind of it break. So it creates some kind of weird sound. So but when people play this instrument, when you start to blow air inside, or you finish the phrase of a musical sentence, the air pressure will go low, and which is quite hard to control. So I take that part as one of the most interesting sound identity of this instrument. So that's why I create a work titled "Catching the Fireworks Tell." So to me, that kind of breaking, I don't have this instrument next to me, so it's hard for me to demonstrate how that sound is like. In this work, you might hear many that kind of sound. So and also this instrument is a reed instrument. Is similar to accordion, similar to many Asian instruments sheng, and also similar to organ. The organ in church is same type of family as an instrument. So in this piece, which is composed for 8 of these kind of instrument, and also different sets of ring modulation modules, and so the ring modulation modules also gives a even more colorful timbre into this instrument, and which makes it sounds like something else as well. So without further ado, let's check it out. Yeah. 1 second, why I have to log in.
Also, make sure you share the sound via Zoom.
Yes, yes, I will. Ah, okay. I don't need to knock him. Okay. Okay, go. Okay. I wish I can show you how the instrument is like. Maybe I can show you a picture of it. So this instrument, although it's the same family with organ, accordion, or sheng, but is, as I mentioned, is a folk instrument, and it's not only a traditional instrument; it's a folk instrument also, and it's also not super precisely made. So people play this in the village, and usually people don't play this instrument in concert. So not in such formal concert. So the ambiguity and of course the imperfectness of this instrument um, strike me the most. And the recording you just heard was the first demo I made. Not a demo, is a complete version. So it was during the pandemic, so I record all the voices by myself, and later on, the premiere of this piece came way later than the piece was completed. So the premiere was like 2 years later, two years after it was finished. So yeah, it looks like this. So usually people only play the middle pipe, and the side pipe is for some tone decoration, some additional tones. So if you open the hole on the side, so then the side pipe is being activated. So anyhow, so let's move into the more multimedia side of my composition. So the next one I'm gonna show you is titled Folding. This one, and is composed for flute, saxophone, electric guitar, drum sets, keyboards, and video. This piece was done in 2024, last year, the end of last fall in the last year, and it was premiered in Barcelona. The reason why it's titled Folding is numerous reasons, but so this piece, the stage setup of this piece is not a music theater. It's more like a concert setting, and concert setting. I mean, musicians playing on the stage, and also there is a video projections behind the musicians. However, the musicality, the idea of musical ideas is not only conveyed through sound at this moment. So the video of this piece takes quite important part of musical idea carrying and conveyance. So, and once you have watched the video of this piece, you might know why it's titled Folding. Okay, so let's check this out. Oh gosh, it's so slow.
张总，这是最后一版，按您的要求改了，请您看一下。
Yeah, as you might see in the video, in the microfilm, at the last part of the piece, the piece is about the power dynamic between employer and employee, and so on and so forth. So and I took the idea of folding and also using multiple different kind of genre of music to deal with the idea of revising the same thing over and over and over. So since we are into the multimedia side of my composition, so now I'm gonna show you a piece that has this image displayed. So this one is a music theater piece that I've composed in 2022, titled Dancing to My Shadow. And Dancing to My Shadow is a piece I have done with two versions. One version is a concert version, which is 20 something minute, written for percussion and automatically play piano and also computer control piano. And the second version is a 90-minute theater version, and is commissioned and premiered in the Guangzhou Opera House. So just like what you have seen here, and Dancing to My Shadow is also composed during the pandemic, actually near the end of the pandemic. So I think the idea of dancing to my shadow is the ultimate stage or ultimate status of loneliness. And so how people can lonely until one is dancing to their own shadow. So in the theater version of it, there are only two performers on the stage. One is the percussionist, another is a dancer. So one is wearing white costume, and while the other is wearing black costume. So metaphorically, the dancer is always act as a shadow of the percussionist, and but however the dancer sometimes will do non-symmetrical thing as the percussionist. So the dancer is not only mimicking the sonic or the motion side of the percussionist, but also expanding what the percussionist is doing, both sonically and kinesthetically. So this piece is performed in a theater. It contains not only sound and music, but also lighting, spatial sound, interactive image, and also the dancer is wearing many different kind of motion sensors on her body. So her movement also creates sound as well. So since it's a very giant composition, I'm not gonna show you the whole thing, but just some part of it. So this is a long trailer version, but still I'm not gonna show you everything. Yeah, there are a lot more. So this is just a trailer of it, and some part of the piano part here is interactive, not only with the motion sensor that we're ruled by the dancer, but also in there are also automatically pre-programmed call and respond with the percussion instrument, which is deeply rooted in to the other version of this piece actually. So which I'm gonna show you in the next. So the concert version of Dancing to My Shadow, and also is premiering in the campus of UC San Diego in the music department, and so this is what we are doing in the rehearsal, and so in the concert version, the piano acts as a shadow of the percussion instrument, sonic wise. So there are microphones. Maybe you can see here. There are microphones set up here near the percussion setup. So the microphone takes the spectrum of the percussion instrument, and I have used many metal plates and drums in this piece. So both the drums and the metal creates quite complicated harmonics. So the piano acts as a resynthesize tool or resynthesize instruments here, and use the piano as a like a electronic instrument to resynthesize the percussion instrument sound. So the sound of the percussion instruments going through the microphone and going to the computer. The computer process the percussion sound and reproduce them onto the piano. So yeah, that is the program, and then there's a also the piano part uses a Markov chain to do the I mean there's a automatically improvised program I create, and which is based on the algorithm Markov chain here, and which takes the rhythm of the percussion instrument, actually the percussion playing, and to do a response to the percussion playing. So let me show you a little bit of this piece. Annoying.
Sorry,
And then-
Yifan, we only have 1 minute left.
Oh, I thought we have 10 minutes left.
Yeah, it's ends like 4:50. So yeah. But thanks so
Okay.
much for your presentation.
Sure.
Yeah, maybe you can upload these websites and or materials to Canvas under Module 8 so people can check out. Because we don't have time now to play it in this lecture.
Sure. I thought we have 10 more minutes, so I'm sorry about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
so
the
we can-
course ends 4:50,
Yeah,
so I don't
makes sense.
have reason to keep people here. But
Makes
let's
sense,
give
makes
last
sense.
round of applause for Yifan, your TA, and thanks everyone for joining us today. I'll see you next Thursday at 2 p.m. Okay, we will have another guest lecture next Thursday. Okay, thanks everyone. Have a good day. So okay, bye bye everyone. Thanks, Yifan.
Bye.
Okay, bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Thank you.